change our daily lives, that will change history, 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 that will change history. That will be the most beautiful day.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening for your Ukraine war report for June 20th, 2022, day 117. We are on now this ongoing and very bloody conflict. Some would argue this expanding conflict. This inevitably expanding conflict here. We're going to be bringing you guys all of the main news. We're going to get everybody filled in on what's been going on over not just the past 24 hours, but over the weekend as well. We're going to get everybody caught up. We didn't have a report Friday, so I'm also going to cover any major events that might have occurred on Friday. I hope I'm coming in clear for all of you this evening. Really great, as usual, to see so many returning viewers in the live chat, as well as a few new faces as well. As always, guys, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to stop by here and get filled in on what is going on in Ukraine. Not just Ukraine, but as I say multiple times before, probably sounds like a broken record now, this is a expanding conflict that has reached far beyond Ukraine now. There's fighting that has happened outside of Ukrainian territory, both in Russian territory and in Moldovan territory. And then, of course, there's been far-reaching consequences, arguably, for the entire globe. Doompie coming into the chat really quickly. You'll start us off with our weather forecast. Thank you so much, Doompie, for being on the task tonight. Usually you don't come in with that weather forecast till later in the evening, but I'll get it out of the way to start with tonight. I know it's really hot here where I'm at in the United States, over here on the East Coast. We're having kind of a heat wave today, almost about 102 degrees in my studio right now as I'm bringing you guys this report. The air conditioning is currently not set up yet. I haven't got that installed yet, but I will this week, hopefully. But until then, we're bringing you guys this report from the hot seat. Weather forecast from Doompie says in Kiev, 0400, 15 degrees C, mostly cloudy, northwest 12 kilometers an hour, winds, sunrise 0446, sunset 2113. It's about 3 a.m. here in Ukraine, so I should say good morning, Ukraine. Good morning to everybody in Europe as well. For those of you in the United States, good evening to you, to everybody in the Americas. About 8 p.m. here on the East Coast. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in tonight. We're going to get started with our primary headlines. But first, we're going to do our what we've been calling our gas price roundup over the past few weeks. We're going to get it out of the way very quickly tonight. Checking on our AAA the national average gas price here coming from gasprices.aaa.com. That's where you can find that. It has gone down a little bit since our last report, reporting in at about $4.98. I know where I'm at, prices have not gone down very much, maybe 2 cents. We're sitting around $5.19, anywhere between $5.08 a gallon and $5.19 a gallon is where we're at in my area. For those of you in chat, if you haven't already, please hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention, and sound off where you're tuning in from this evening and what your gas prices are looking like in your neck of the woods. Hugo, thank you so much for tuning in this evening, says Nemico. Hey man, good evening. Yes, good evening to you as well. Hugo, Speedy Squirrel, Catlinburg, Itchy the Killer, Anna, all of you guys, Catlinburg, Kender, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. To everybody, thank you so much for stopping by this evening. Again, we're going to get started with our primary headlines. As you guys report in with some of those gas prices and where you're tuning in from, I'll respond to those as well. Mike Patchett says hello from Oswego, New York. Never been to Oswego. It sounds pretty cool. Mike, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Michelle Welch says hi, Nemico. Says we're coming in loud and clear to you guys. Thank you so much, Michelle, for tuning in tonight. I know we were having some connection issues, I think, for a minute there when we first started the stream, but it looks to, I think, evened itself out now, so that's good. I hope I'm coming in clear to everybody this evening. Rodney, thank you so much for tuning in. Says he's tuning in from Georgia, about $4.67 a gallon there, which makes sense. I've noticed in Texas, Georgia, some of those southern states, those prices have come down a little bit. I know Texas, their prices didn't get very high to begin with. Those southern states, again, they have a large amount of fuel already at their disposal. And so we haven't seen too much in the way of price increases. Florida has been a little bit higher, I would say. Worst places are by far, as you can see here on the map, kind of the West Coast. The West Coast here all the way up to Alaska. Of course, Illinois, the East Coast here, Michigan as well, all highlighted in red there. So they're not doing too well in regards to those fuel prices. Doompie says, last few weeks being busy with some things, and it's pretty late in the day on this time, so most of the time I'm sleeping around this time. Well, Doompie, I'm glad you were able to get us that weather forecast for this evening. Thank you so much again, man, for tuning in and for giving us that information. Unstinkable says $9.92 a gallon here in the Netherlands. Unstinkable, is that a proper U.S. conversion? Because if so, God be with you, Unstinkable. That is absolutely horrible fuel prices down there. Again, thank you so much to everybody that is tuning in this evening and sounded off with those fuel prices there. Catlinburg says we're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave, says Catlinburg, where they're tuning in. Curtis Cardwell says, good evening to Nemico and all from a very flooded southwest. That's not good. I hope you guys are doing okay down there. Montana, premium is running around $5.49 a gallon. So that's actually cheaper. Our premium, I think, here is about $6 a gallon, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just talking regular fuel. We're at about $5.19 a gallon here. At our local gas stations. Callenberg says about $6.21 regular in SoCal, so that's still pretty high there in SoCal. Utkin says it's about 99 degrees Fahrenheit there in California. Nice ocean breeze. Yeah, it is pretty toasty today. I know quite a few of us are having a pretty big heat wave. Bruno Arante is tuning in from Australia. Bruno, is it hot down there, down under this evening? Or this morning. I'm not sure if it's morning for you or evening for you, Bruno, but again, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and let us know how is the heat down there in Australia this time of year. Len Weiss says about $6.50 in California, where they are tuning in. Michelle Welch, $4.49 in Missouri. Utkin says $5.69 in Lompoc, California. Well, all right, guys, thank you so much for giving us those fuel prices there. We're going to now switch into our primary headlines for this evening. We're going to start getting you guys filled in on what's going on in Ukraine. But it's always interesting to hear how those fuel prices are being affected. Again, a lot of people don't realize this here in the States, but these fuel prices are being directly affected by this war in Ukraine. Okay, that's why we're seeing these inflating prices for our fuel, especially for our fuel, but our food prices as well. I've talked about this on the show in the past. 12% of our daily caloric intake comes from Ukraine, and it's not there right now. And so that's being reflected in your local grocery store prices. Is that missing 12% of your daily calories, all right? Which, again, comes from Ukraine. That food is sitting in Ukraine. We're talking things like sunflower oil. That's a huge one, massive one used in production of all sorts of foods. But you have grain exports, all sorts of food exports that are sitting in those Black Sea ports in Ukraine. A lot of that food is going to waste. It's being left to rot in those ports. Some of it's, having to be sent to waste. Some of it's being sent into Russia. We've seen evidence of that. We've seen some of it, and just in the past 24 hours, there was satellite images put out showing some of those grain shipments heading down to Syria. The Russians are rerouting some of that grain down to Syria as well. So again, a very interesting situation. We're going to have to keep an eye closely on that food crisis that is occurring there. Not just our fuel prices, but our food prices as well. I'll finish up the few of you that put your gas prices in the chat there towards the end. Anna says about $5.14 in DC. Speedy Squirrel says $4.19 USD a gallon in UAE. So that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all, actually. Epi says about £1.99 for a can of WD-40. I'm not sure if that correlates very well, Epi. But thank you so much for stopping by and tuning in this evening. I think for me here in the States, a can of WD-40 right now, and we're just talking like a standard size can, probably $4 or $5 where I'm at, maybe even upwards of $6. I haven't checked the prices on that lately, but that's what they usually go for. Alrighty. So again, just really quickly before we start our main headlines, I know Jillian just tuned in here, says you keep cutting in and out. Is there something wrong with the mic? I'm hoping that I'm coming in loud and clear to you guys now. Let me know. Sound off in the chat if I'm cutting in and out at all, guys. Just before we start our main headlines here. 907 a gallon in the Netherlands, says Smoker FRL. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's US dollars, though. How does that convert? So we'll go ahead and we'll get right into our primary headlines for this evening. Get everybody kind of filled in on what's been going on in Ukraine. Again, this is day 117. So again, the main story that I've been covering for the past few weeks here is this ongoing battle in the Donbass, in the east of the country. Right? Not just the battle that's happening in the east, but more specifically the battle that is happening in Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. Okay, so those two areas. Let's switch over here. Switch over to our map so we can take a look. Take a look at our map here. Probably a good idea to get that up on screen. So, again, I want to make it blaringly clear. Up until recent weeks, the main consensus amongst not only everyday viewers like yourselves, but most of the intelligence community is that Ukraine was holding strong, all right? Over the past week or so, that has started to shift, all right? There's a few articles tonight that I'm going to show you that kind of illustrates that. Again, it is now undeniable that Russia is slowly, very slowly, okay, but surely taking ground and territory in the east of the country. I think this, again, has a lot to do with just not only the lowering of morale on both sides, all right? Again, as this war is grinded on and the soldiers haven't been able to be rotated out of frontline combat positions, morale has severely dropped. Okay, so that's a big problem. I think the bigger problem, though, is the lack of munitions, the lack of weapon systems that are going into Ukraine. We need, arguably, I would say 10 times what we're sending in now to the Ukrainians for them to get the job done. It's because of that their morale is being lowered. They're on the front lines. They don't have the gear they need. And we're not just talking about weapon systems here. We're not just talking about munitions. But we're getting to a point now in the war where, I mean, basic things like helmets, body armor, gloves, boots, all that sort of stuff is getting harder and harder and harder for them to get, okay? They're running out of stuff, all right? That's just the fact of the matter is they're running out of gear, all right? They're running out of munitions, and they're running out of weapon systems, all right? And so we're getting to a point now in the war where the Russian strategy, which is this war of attrition, this slow grinding bloodbath, which we're seeing there, they're okay with losing people. All right, they know that they're going to lose people, and that's where the problem starts. Is that this bloodbath, this grinding march forward here, again, is inevitably taking territory, all right? And that's what we're seeing happen now on the ground, especially, again, in places in the Donbass, specifically in the Donbass. In some other parts of the country, in the south, the Ukrainians have been pushing back near Kherson. They've been able to kind of remount offensives in that region. So things that we talked about earlier in the war, things like the taking of Odessa and the southern coast seem less likely, as the Ukrainians have been able to mount a pretty good offensive down there. However, counteroffensive, but in the Donbass, in the east specifically, we're seeing kind of a turnaround here, all right, in the general consensus. And that is basically that, again, originally intel analysts were referring to it as anemic progress, all right? The Russians would take some territory, the Ukrainians would come in hours later and take it back. All right. Well, what we're seeing now is, again, there's a kind of a grinding march forward, a grinding conquest over territories in the east, in the Donbass there, and it's directly related to the lack of munitions that the Ukrainians have at their disposal, and just how much bombardment the Russians are using. So let's go through some of our primary headlines here this evening. So again, Russia is advancing as its forces have seized a village near Ukraine's industrial city of Severodonetsk. Again, prime target in the war right now, in the battle, for the Donbass. Russian state news agency TASS said Luhansk's governor, Serhiy Haidai, told Ukrainian television Russian claims are a lie and they control the main part of the town, but not the whole town. They do, at this time, it does look like they control the majority of Severodonetsk. At this time is under control by the Russians. All right. To go into a little bit of specifics there, I mean, there's been kind of an hour-by-hour shifting of the territory control in and around Severodonetsk. Not just Severodonetsk, but in areas in and around all of Luhansk there. I'll show you guys here on the map. We can zoom in here. So you have, again, Lysychansk, Severodonetsk, right on the border here between Luhansk and Donetsk. There's been basically an hour-by-hour shifting of territory control all along this conflict line. All right, as the Ukrainians launch counteroffensives, they take back a little bit of territory, or they'll push back the Russian artillery, and then the Russians come back and they push forward. And again, it's back and forth, this game of cat and mouse that we're seeing constantly, especially right along this conflict line here. Again, you can see Severodonetsk here, the majority of the city is currently under control by Russian forces. They're on the map. Again, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he expects Russia to intensify attacks on Ukraine as Kiev waits for the European Union's decision to grant it candidacy status. Again, we've talked about this on last week's report. Again, that we are expecting an uptick in attacks, but not just attacks here in the east, but we're probably going to see some more bombardments in the west. We're talking places like Kiev, Lviv. We might see more missile attacks and things of that nature, stuff that we saw, again, in the we saw a lot of that in the beginning of the war, in the first month or two of the war. We're still seeing it now, so don't be mistaken. There is still attacks happening in central and western Ukraine via means of missile bombardment, etc. So again, the president of Ukraine there, Volodymyr Zelensky, saying he expects Russia to intensify those attacks again as they await European Union candidacy status. Russia's air forces are underperforming in Ukraine, forcing Moscow to rely more than planned on exhausted ground troops and advanced cruise missiles that are running out. Again, this came from a report from the UK's Defense Ministry. A lot of ammo depots have been hit inside of Russia. A lot of Russian ammo depots have been coming under attack over the past week, and we've seen a lot of that arguably since the war began. But I would say there's been a sharp uptick of those ammo depots being struck within Ukraine over the past week or so. Ukraine's Deputy Prosecutor General says Kiev launched 19 criminal proceedings against Russian soldiers for sexual violence against at least 14 women in temporarily occupied territories in Ukraine over the course of the war. So again, they've launched 19 criminal proceedings against those Russian soldiers, and that's just sexual crimes. That doesn't count for the other hundreds of crimes that have been committed. Again, there's been countless war trials that have now started and investigations that have been started within Ukraine. We have foreign third parties coming in to launch their own investigations. And so this is going to be something that is going to be, we're going to be hearing about these war investigations for years, even past the end of the war. Okay, so again, a lot of this is just getting started here. In the country. Some diplomacy for you. European Commission head Ursula von der Leyen expressed confidence that Ukraine will be granted official candidate status ahead of a key EU summit in Brussels later this month. So it does look like they are going to be granted that status. Ukraine is not a suitable candidate for European Union membership, says the Speaker of Russia's parliament. again, citing total corruption, rampant crime, oligarch power, and a ruined economy. Again, that's coming from the Speaker of Russia's parliament. They came out and they said, basically in a reply to that, that Ukraine is not suitable for EU membership candidate status. The UK must have a military capable of fighting in Europe and defeating Russia, the new head of the British Army said in a statement over the weekend. In another statement by NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, he said the war in Ukraine, this came over the weekend, could take, quote, years to come to a close. And the West must continue to support. Again, Jens Stoltenberg, that Secretary General of NATO, again saying the Ukraine war could, and in that report he said even there's a high probability that it will last for years. And again, he reiterated that it's very important that the West continues to support the war efforts in Ukraine. So again, that concludes our primary headlines for this evening, our main top headlines for this evening. We're now going to switch over into our community aggregated news. And to start that out, I have a few articles that I found interesting. Hold on, I'm trying to get, I had another one here that I wanted to bring up. Okay, so our first, I believe, comes from Bloomberg. We have another article from Foreign Policy as well, and so we're going to take a look at both of those because I thought they were interesting. Before we start, though, if you want to follow along with these community aggregated reports, which again are brought to us by community members, you can head over to our Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. Hop into the Situation Room, and you can take a look at all of these articles which we are posting, which we are covering tonight. If you head over into the Welcome channel, you can actually pick up your Intel Analyst badge over there, and it'll allow you to post news articles and posts in that Situation Room, and they just might be selected to be shown on the live stream during these reports. All right. So again, without further ado, our first post this evening, and again, before I start, I'm going to hop into our big screen here, our pointer screen, so I can take a look at things a little closer and so you guys can see what we're looking at. Our first post here tonight, we're going to start with the Bloomberg article that I had for us. This comes from, again, Bloomberg.com. Right? Again, this is an opinion-based article, but I'm just going to read you guys the headline from it, because I've seen a lot of these same main headlines over the past week, okay? And I was talking about this at the beginning of the show. I feel like the media consensus has now started to shift a little bit, all right? And this is what we're seeing here. Putin may win in Ukraine, but, quote, the real war is just starting. What they mean by that? Again, they're talking about this larger conflict which could ensue. Again, this comes from Bloomberg here. Let's go down. We'll take a look. There was one paragraph here that I wanted to read from. There was one paragraph in here. Basically talked about. It talked about the. Okay, here we go. Here it is here. There's a case right here for U.S. and allied warships to escort vessels carrying Ukrainian grain to and from Odessa, defying Putin to fire on them. At present, however, President Joe Biden's administration seems wary of taking this step, which might precipitate general war. It is almost unthinkable that the U.S. forces would be directly committed. Again, that would be a massive step, and again, I think we're a good ways away from anything like that occurring. But the possibility for some kind of accident to occur here, for some kind of misjudgment to occur here, is really high. Okay, this is Cold War levels high. Especially once you get vessels trying to move grain and shipments like that out of these Baltic Sea ports. We're going to have to keep a close eye on this situation there. But again, very interesting shift in the consensus here on a lot of these news outlets. Again, here's another one from foreignpolicy.com. This is from Lithuanian foreign minister saying Russia might not lose. Again, he weighs in on why Russia needs to be defeated and why Eastern European states were and are nervous and why the West needs to step up. Again, they're talking about the fact that the amount of munitions we're sending over just is not enough. The amount of weapons we're sending over is nowhere near enough. And I was talking about that from the get-go, from when we started hearing of the first aid packages being sent over. The big idea was this is not enough, right? The big consensus amongst us was this is not enough. It's not going to be enough, even when combined with all of the other aid packages being sent by other countries. All right, they need way more. They need way more, and they need more advanced weapon systems than what they're getting now. Arguably, again, to push back those Russian forces, if they want to push them back out of territory that the Russians have taken, they definitely need more advanced weapon systems. They need a hell of a lot more munitions, and they need more gear. They need more logistical supplies. They need medical supplies. They need all those sorts of things. Again, that's the main problem here. Which we're experiencing. Again, LastB83 pops in and says, kind of like sanctions don't work. And I talked about this when the war first began. Russia has spent years fortifying their economy, fortifying the Russian economy and fortifying the Russian state to be able to take a hit like this, to be able to take these sanctions. All right. That's why we're seeing it not affect them as much as we thought, and that's why the U.S. is already looking at ramping up those sanctions. That's why countries are continuing to impose more sanctions. It'll take time for those sanctions to really start to have an effect. All right, they've said this multiple times. It's not an immediate effect on Russia. It's going to take time for those to have an effect, and the reason is because they spent years fortifying the country, fortifying their economy, so that they could take a hit like this. As little kid Dickens says, little Dickens too, he says sanctions work long term, they aren't fast, but they are stopping Russia from replacing their advanced weapons that have been destroyed. Exactly. That's exactly it. And one thing here, it's a race against who has the munitions, who has the weapon systems, and who's running out. Right now, Ukraine is running out. Don't get me wrong, Russia is also losing a lot of their equipment, a lot of their munitions. That's why we're seeing all of these Russian weapons stockpiles, all of these ammo depots getting targeted this week. We've been seeing a huge ramping up of those ammo stockpiles being targeted. And the reason is because Ukraine is trying to decrease the amount of available munitions that the Russians have to continue their campaign. All right? It's because they know that they're running out of munitions, all right? And so they need to even the playing field a little bit. That's why they are targeting most of these ammunition depots here within the country. So again, sanctions work long term, and it's going to take, especially since Russia has spent years trying to fortify their economy for this exact scenario, it's going to take time. It's going to take time for these sanctions to kick in. Again, it's another reason why the Ukrainians are taking the fight to Russian territory already. It's why they're targeting these ammunition depots. It's because they need to even out the playing field. All right, so again, I had those two opinion-based articles there, one from Bloomberg, one from Foreign Policy. I just wanted to touch on those, and basically the whole point was just that the consensus has been shifting. That I've noticed the media consensus has been shifting. All right, over the past week or so here, again, as these intel reports have come in showing that there has been territory control being had in the east of the country by those Russian forces here. Again, I can show you that on the map. It's a slow and grinding, very bloody progress. And again, it doesn't go without saying that the Ukrainians have taken a lot of territory back. All right, well, you see all of this blue shaded territory there. Especially here around Kherson, they're doing pretty good down there. Again, as they look to, liberate some of these territories from the Russian forces. Our first community aggregated post this evening comes from a user by the name of Carbon, longtime contributor. Thank you so much, Carbon, for posting this in the Situation Room. It comes from the Kiev Independent. That is a verified Twitter source that we've gotten quite a few reports from. This shows Zelensky meeting with Ben Stiller, the Hollywood actor there, on a UN Goodwill envoy. After visiting settlements in Kiev Oblast, Stiller told Zelensky that seeing the destruction caused by Russia's war in person was much more striking compared to what he saw on TV. Again, I actually can't reiterate enough what Mr. Stiller said there. What we see, even through our CCTV cameras, even through all the footage that we have aggregated here, it does not put it in perspective for how many craters there are there on the ground, how many buildings are destroyed, how much infrastructure has been destroyed, and how much death has actually occurred in the country. Right? It does not put it into perspective whatsoever. Again, you have to be there to really understand the full extent of the situation and the impact it's having on the people that are there in country. Our next post here comes from Kayuka, comes from Jay in Kiev on Twitter here. This is, again, unverified source and unverified report as well, but we'll read it to you anyway. If true, it's great news. Ukraine is currently bombarding Russian-occupied Snake Island. Russia has spent the last month loading it with the highest tech gear they have, most likely radar equipment, surveillance equipment, stuff like that, reconnaissance gear, most likely, and missile systems, I would imagine, as well. Our next post here, again, comes from Kayuka. Kayuka posts like a madman, so I feel he puts in the effort, and I feel we'll go through a few of his. I usually try to do one per user, but sometimes we got to give you guys a few. Got to read a few of these because some of them are pretty interesting. Again, this comes from Walter Report. It says, "Get ready for the fire show in the Black Sea. Russian warships with full battle loads leaving Sevastopol and heading towards Odessa. Good hunting to Ukrainian naval aviation and coastal defenses." Again, this was posted at 3:26 p.m. June 20th. Again, that is today, from earlier today. So again, we're going to have to keep an eye on that situation, see if anything comes of it, but at this time, everything is taken with a grain of salt here that we're showing you. Another post coming from Kayuka, coming this time from Kiev Independent. The Deputy Prime Minister urges residents to leave occupied Kherson Oblast ahead of a counteroffensive which is planned to occur there. So again, I was just speaking of that the counteroffensives that are occurring in Kherson. Sorry to pronounce that correctly there. Kherson without a K. Anyway, Kherson here, again, you can see the Ukrainians have been launching many counteroffensives in recent weeks to take back some of this territory here, and they are planning another. Says here, Erna Vereshchuk said that they can try to leave through the occupied Crimea to Russia, as this is nearly the only way to escape. After that, they can enter the European Union or other countries. Again, urging people to leave that area immediately. Another post here from Kayuka on Live UA Map. This actually comes from Live UA Map's verified Twitter account. Shows a military arsenal exploding at Azotony in Donetsk region. Again, this is another Russian, I believe this is another Russian ammo depot which has been targeted here. Again, you can hear some ominous explosions coming from that explosion site there, from that ammo depot. Our next post here comes from Pyrotech. Thank you so much, Pyrotech, for posting this in the Situation Room. This comes from Euromaidan Press. People in Mariupol are on the verge of death due to a lack of drinking water, says the mayor of Mariupol, Vadim Bachenko. Residents have had to queue 4 to 8 hours to get water once a week, he said. The city is also left without electricity and gas, and they are amongst a cholera outbreak as well, I might add. So a very dire situation there within Mariupol. Our next post this evening comes from Spitfire 740 on the Situation Room. Again, another post from Euromaidan Press. Talks about Ukrainian forces carrying out missile strikes on 2 Ukrainian gas rigs captured by Russia back in 2014. Earlier, he suggested that explosions in the Black Sea heard in Odessa might have occurred on the occupied Zemini Island. Interesting report there, again, coming from Euromaidan Press. Our next post comes from Kayuka, coming from Nexta TV on Twitter here. It says the Ukrainian armed forces attacked the drilling rigs of the oil and gas company. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. Kronomorometagaz in Simferopol, again, states the head of Crimea, Sergei Askanov. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but this might be the same, referring to the same rigs that we just saw in that other post. That could possibly be the same fuel rigs. Our next post here, coming from Kayuka. This expands a little bit on those reports about Snake Island that we talked about earlier. Many explosions thundered on Snake Island and a fire broke out, says media reports. Eyewitnesses talk about rockets flying towards the island. Says we are waiting for official confirmation. So again, I'm still waiting to hear more on that situation at Snake Island. Our final post here this evening, again, coming from Kayuka. This comes from the Ministry of Defense here. I believe this is the British Ministry of Defense. This is the latest defense intelligence update on the situation in Ukraine for the 20th of June. So I'll go ahead and read that for you guys today. Russian ground and tactical air operations have remained focused on the central Donbass sector over the weekend. In the conflict to date, Russia's air forces have underperformed. Its failure to consistently deliver air power is likely one of the most important factors behind Russia's very limited campaign success. It cannot gain full air superiority and has operated in a risk-adverse style, rarely penetrating deep behind Ukrainian lines. Some of the underlying causes of its difficulties echo those of Russian ground forces. For years, much of Russia's air combat training has highly likely been heavily scripted and designed to impress senior officials, rather than to develop dynamic initiative amongst air crews. So again, basically saying that their training has been I would say anemic. That would be a good word for it. And has not, again, developed those necessary skill sets that those air crews require to conduct operations successfully. While Russia has an impressive roster of relatively modern and capable combat jets, the Air Force has almost certainly failed to develop the institutional culture and skill sets required for its personnel to meet Russia's aspiration of delivering a more Western-style modern air campaign. This has led to a greater than planned weight of effort falling to ground troops who are becoming exhausted and on advanced cruise missiles, stocks of which are likely running low. Again, a lot of that we reported earlier in the evening's report. That about concludes our open source reports for this evening. Our community aggregated reports for this evening. We're now going to switch over to our open source reporting here from our live UA map. We're going to get you guys updated on all of the individual events that have happened over about the past 12 or so hours here. 1 second here while I get hydrated. Again, about 105. It's come down a little bit. It's about 102 degrees here in the studio this evening. Earlier in the day, it was about up at 105. It is toasty, absolutely toasty in here. I hope everybody's having a wonderful evening tonight. I guess if you haven't already, hit that like button, or as we say, javelin the like button. Again, it's the best way to get the algorithm's attention and get this information into the hands of more viewers. Okay. We'll start, actually, let's go all the way down. Let's go all the way down here. We'll go down here to the 12-hour mark, which is weird because it's giving me a 3-hour mark right after, and then a 2 minutes ago. Okay, let's refresh this. This doesn't look kosher. Let's get this refreshed. Okay, this looks good. Okay, we'll scroll down here to our 12-hour, 13-hour. Okay, we'll go here. We'll start here at this 13-hour report. A blackout Several districts of Kharkiv, after shelling occurred there, you can see on screen a picture, some of those plumes coming up from that shelling. But about 13 hours ago, it was reported that a blackout in several districts of Kharkiv was currently underway. 11 hours ago, explosion near an ice arena Almaz in Donetsk. You can see a picture there of the plume coming up from that explosion. But we have a video for you guys, so don't go anywhere.
Мы в общем, починили машину, но что-то, прилетело, мы в рот ебали. Ебать его рот, закрыло все нахуй. Ну, в общем, поехали домой. Барсетка моя.
So you can see the plumes of smoke coming up there from that shelling that occurred again near the ice arena Almaz in Donetsk. 10 hours ago, Russian army launched 14 missiles during 3 hours today. Missiles launched at Ochakiv, Dunai, Mouth, Belgorod, Dniprovsky district, and Odessa city as well. So multiple areas there. Again, you can see all along the southern coast. So I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream that Western Ukraine, Central Ukraine are not without attacks. Okay, the Russians have not stopped attacking those areas. There still is missile bombardments that happen. As you can see here clearly, the entire southern coast over the course of 3 hours was completely bombarded in these areas here. We also had reports of Russian Navy leaving out of Sevastopol. So again, we're going to have to keep an eye on what is happening in and around the Black Sea, in and around Odessa and the southern coast there over the coming days. 10 hours ago here, Zelensky in a statement says complex negotiations are underway to open Ukrainian ports. 10 hours ago. Again, I believe the deciding factor on if any of those plans for a escort go forward, this is going to be the deciding factor here, is whether or not Russia allows those ports to be opened and allows those exports to leave Ukraine. Okay, again, he's saying here complex negotiations are underway at this moment to open Ukrainian ports. Again, coming at us 10 hours ago. 10 hours ago as well, Zelensky to the African Union says Africa is hostage to the repercussions of Russia's war against Ukraine. I mentioned at the beginning of the hour when we started our report that not just Ukraine and those in the immediate vicinity of Ukraine are infected, but there are global-reaching consequences, far-reaching consequences for everybody on the planet when it comes to this war. Again, related to fuel, related to food prices, amongst other things. Again, Zelensky's saying here that they're basically being held hostage to those repercussions of that Russian war. Specifically talking about those grain exports, Africa is highly affected by those exports being held up within those ports. 9 hours ago, coming from our NASA Firms map. Again, NASA Firms has been one of our favorite open source intelligence tools. If you guys are getting into open source intelligence gathering and you're looking for an excellent tool to help track explosions and conflicts and whatever is going on here in Ukraine, NASA Firms, which is their fire, it's basically like a fire tracking map, all right? From satellites in space, they're able to track where fires are located, where smoke is burning, where smoke and fire is burning on the ground, and they plot it on a map. So again, you see here, Firms showing a fire at the area of those oil rigs deployment in the Black Sea. So again, that gives us some kind of confirmation that says, hey, those attacks most likely did happen. Those attacks on those Russian-held oil rigs are most likely true, again, because we're seeing that there is a fire that broke out there in the location of where those oil rigs are located at. 8 hours ago, at Kharkiv direction, a Russian scout group attempted to advance at Raishivka. Russian artillery shelled Udi, Ukrainka, Korobunchki, Mekhelenivka, or Makalivka, and Petrivka, says the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, again in their evening report. Now, if we go on the map here and we click on this report, we can see where these are all located in and around Kharkiv. So that's where all those strikes were reported, again, coming from that evening report. Another evening report here at Slavyansk direction, Russian army shelled in multiple areas there. Near Borohodenchi, Ukrainian army repelled the Russian assault. So let's go ahead and take a look at this on the map. If we zoom out here, we can see where all of this activity occurred. Kind of up by Izium, in and around Izium there. Another evening report 8 hours ago at Severodonetsk direction. Russian army artillery shelled Ukrainian positions. Russian aviation conducted airstrikes at civilian infrastructure near Ustanivka and Lysychansk, again, says the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in their evening report. 8 hours ago, artillery, hold on, I'll show you actually really quickly where those are located as well. Again, up by Severodonetsk on the map there. 8 hours ago here, artillery shelling recorded near Lysychansk, Hersky, and Ustanivka. Battles continue in Severodonetsk. Ukrainian military repelled Russian attacks near Mirna Dolna and the Bila Hora, again, also coming from that evening report. You can see located on the map where those events occurred. Again, coming from the evening report at Bakhmut direction, Russian scout group attempted to advance at Mykolivka. Russian artillery shelled Bielorivka, Berestovi, and a few other locations there. But you can see also Russian aviation conducted airstrikes in one of those areas as well. Actually, a few different areas as well in that region. So again, a lot of activity happening there. 8 hours ago at Advivka and a few other regions here, as you can see. More strikes occurring. 7 hours ago, more shellings occurring over here near Kherson as well. So you can see along from, I would say, from the tip, the southernmost tip of Ukraine, over here, western Ukraine, southwestern Ukraine, I would say, all the way up the contact line, all the way up to the north here, we've seen strikes in the past 12 hours. You can see just a huge line of bombardments that have been reported on this map. And that doesn't include all of the bombardments that have not been reported. You guys have to understand that live UA map is only able to catalog so much, okay? Because every single one of these strikes has to be verified with either some kind of picture or video evidence and geolocation on top of that, okay? Either it comes from like a government like verified report, or there's photo video evidence corroborated with geolocation data. All right, and so that's how they verify these reports. And so again, you got to think that there are thousands, not just hundreds, but thousands of other strikes and events that are happening along this conflict line every 24 hours. I mean, every minute there's something happening in Ukraine right now when it comes to just how fast this conflict is progressing. Okay, hold up. Let me scroll back up and get caught up here. At 4 hours ago here, explosions were reported in Kharkiv. You can see located on the map there. And then 4 hours ago here, to close off our open source reports, missile launches were reported from, not to, like we have seen recently, but from Belgorod. Again, coming from Russian territory. You can see here. Right, so that is a missile being launched out of Belgorod, most likely into Ukrainian territory. Again, this came from 4 hours ago. Let's go ahead and refresh our live UA map here and see if we have any other reports that have come in. So, as usual, we got our nightly round of red alert aerial threat sirens. 1 hour ago, Donetsk Oblast, red alert, aerial threat sirens sounding, take cover now. And 4 hours ago in Zaporizhzhia, Oblast says red alert aerial threat sirens sounding now there as well. Do we have any others? Yes, Poltavska Oblast, sirens there. Kharkivska Oblast, sirens there as well. Sumatska Oblast, Kryvyi Zaporizhzhia Oblast, Kiev Oblast, Vinnytsia Oblast. You can see here, let's just zoom out on the map. All of these blue circles, guys, are air raid alerts for about the past 7 to 12 hours, give or take, is what you see here. Most of them have come in the past, I would say 7 hours ago here. You can see all of them. Donetsk, there's a lot. There's a lot of them. Again, those they have a habit of coming on the map. I would say towards the end of our report. So, kind of when approaching 4 a.m. Ukraine time is when you see all of these alerts. Even if they happened early in the night, I feel like there's like a lag behind with the municipal data making its way onto live UA maps. That's why we're seeing them all flood in at this time of night. But we have seen a repeating pattern since the war began of strikes occurring in early morning, late night, and we usually see a kind of correlating list of these air raid alerts come through on live UA map. Again, that rounds off our, that ends off our open source reports there from liveUAmap.com. We're now going to switch back over to our newsroom here and take a few questions and comments from the live chats, both on Twitch, YouTube, and Discord. Let me actually get my, hold on, I gotta get my Twitch chat back up here. Where to go? There it is. Okay. So again, thank you to everybody that stopped by this evening to join us and get updated on what's going on in Ukraine. If you haven't already, hit that like button. Best way to get the algorithm's attention, get this information into the hands of a lot more viewers. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Best way to get notified when new streams or new videos go live on the channel. I missed a few firework a day videos actually, so I gotta get like 3 or 4 of them out to make up for the ones that we missed. So I'll be doing that maybe later this evening. Katlenberg says oil rigs. That answers that. Lost B83 says, do you think Biden will ban clip-in bicycle pedals? I hope not. Oh, Katlenberg said, I had a depressing thought. Are there any oil pipelines in the Black Sea that are at risk of being damaged? Yeah, the oil rigs are at risk of being damaged. Yeah, that would definitely not be good to have an oil spill on top of this current situation. Epimu, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Says, enjoy your morning on this solstice in the northern hemisphere. Well, Epi, I hope you're having a wonderful morning, a wonderful morning over there in Scotland. I hope it's a beautiful morning there in Glasgow, Edinburgh. I forgot. Wherever you're at over there, Epi, I hope you're having a wonderful morning. Doompie says, keep moist and keep the air moving. Yes, that is also that is always important, especially for those of us that are in a heat wave right now. I know a few of you were reporting extremely high temperatures. Yeah, cheers to Kayuka. Thank you so much for posting all the reports. He stacks them up in the Situation Room. And most of the time, I would say 99% of them are fact-based. He does throw like a 1% in there, what he calls pinch of salt time. And again, that's probably the best term for it is your pinch of salt posts. And sometimes pinch of salt posts end up turning out to be factual posts a few days later. So it is sometimes good to take a look at those and keep your eye on things. Unstakeable says, Nemico Network, crack an egg on your head. Yeah, I could probably cook an egg on my head right now. As Katlenberg actually mentions, says, keep in mind we are in the midst of a full-on all-theater push, I think he says, by Russians, media, diplomacy, etc., going to be an annoying week, and basically referring to just kind of the uptick we've seen in propaganda coming from the Russians. over the past week or so. I would agree with that. There has been kind of an uptick in the amount of public interviews that have been done, public speaking that has been done. We saw the BBC interview with Lavrov. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly recommend going and watching that. That's a roller coaster of an interview. There's been a lot of that we've seen over the past week, and we're going to see more of that, I would argue. Christian says, yeah, Kherson is going to get very, very hot over the next week or so. Yes, so we're looking to see that major counteroffensive by the Ukrainians in Kherson. Kallenberg says, when they pry the bike pedals from my cold, dead hands. Karen Reeves asks, did President Putin finish destroying all the DoD biological weapons labs in Ukraine? Yeah, so we've talked about this. We've covered this many times on the show, Mrs. Reeves. But again, we've shown you again that those labs there's biological laboratories in Ukraine, but they're not in any way related to weapons manufacturing. Okay, so that part of the story, the real part of the story is there are biolabs in Ukraine, as there are in many different countries. They work for third parties, they work for private companies, as well as governments. Now, the weapon labs portion of that's total lunacy. So the biolabs portion of it was true. There are and were labs in Ukraine. But did they have anything to do with the U.S. and weapons research? No, not at all. And again, we covered that. I remember again when that story first broke, just how passionate people were in the chat about that story. How everybody was just constantly fixated on that story for an entire week. And as soon as we started getting, the facts out to people, the evidence of what was really going on with those labs and everything, that immediately went away. People started taking the tinfoil hats off, so to speak. Lost B83 says, I'm sick and tired of the lies about me knowing how to ride my bicycle. We're changing lives. Lost B83, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Thank you so much for stopping by. Der Clavis Spieler, thank you so much for tuning in. Der Clavis Spieler, I hope you're actually German. If you're from Germany, let me know how your guys' firework prices are this year. And again, I've heard Germany is one of the best places to buy and set off fireworks. I might have to take a vacation there eventually. Der Clavis Spieler says, you're still the best source of news updates. Thank you. I try. I wouldn't say I'm the best, but I'm good at improving and learning what I'm doing wrong and what I'm doing right. So again, as I continue to bring you these reports until the war has arguably come to a close, I'm going to continue to improve on how we bring you this news and how we bring you these nightly reports. Lost B83 says, Nemico, you need to advertise your channel for more subs. Maybe. I gotta get some more content going. I gotta get some more content, you guys. I have a backlog of content that stretches years, and as well as new stuff as well that we're trying to get out to you guys. I got videos that I need to edit, and I've just been so busy with just work and general life stuff that, I've been slacking. I got to get more of those videos edited out to you guys. I got plans for further live streams, for interviews, all sorts of stuff. So, again, we'll be looking into that here in the coming weeks and months. Yeah, we have the 10-year anniversary coming up in 2 days. The 22nd of June is our 10-year YouTube anniversary. So I got to do something good for that, and I got to do something for our subscriber special as well. And on top of that, we have the 4th of July show coming up for fireworks. So we got a lot of stuff that we got to cram into a short amount of time here. X Custom Cluster, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Says, have a good day/night. Nemico, to you as well. X Custom Cluster, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Suze for Keeps says, thanks for reporting again from Australia. Thank you so much, Suze, for tuning in tonight. Epimoo says, Glasgow, the real Scotland. Well, I'll have to visit Glasgow at some point. Epi, I definitely want to take a trip to Edinburgh at some point. Scotland, lovely place, lovely country. I'd love to visit it sometime. Lost 83 to answer that question. Yes, I have. Lost B 83 says, I shaved my head just for the stream. That's awesome, Lost B. I'm not as bald as the avatar entails, but I can be. Der Clavis Spieler says, at Nemico Network, do you think any country would retaliate if with a nuke if Russia dropped a nuke on Ukraine? It's hard to tell. Possibly. I wouldn't say probably, though. I wouldn't say it's probable, but it's a possibility. Itchy the Killer, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Kender, thank you so much for stopping by. Jillian, thank you so much for stopping by. Crescent, to everybody that stopped by tonight, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day to get filled in on what is going on in Ukraine. Right after this stream is done, we're going to be getting the 24/7 cam stream right back up for you guys, so you can tune into that. Sir Bin Chicken says, in Melbourne, you cannot buy fireworks. I miss fireworks. Sir Ben Chicken, are you tuning in from Melbourne, Australia? I would not expect Australia to be hard on fireworks regulations. I would expect them to be one of those countries where you could, buy anything under the sun and light it off whatever day you want to. There's always a solution, Sir Ben Chicken. You move out in the woods really far away from anybody else, and you can light as many fireworks as you want any time of the day, whenever you want to, and nobody will give you any problems. Doompie says, Germany has some basic fireworks in the supermarkets, and the quality goes down and prices go up. Doompie, I have a few German. At least I think he's German. He's a YouTuber by the name of Offler. The Oftler. He's one of my favorite fireworks YouTubers. If you guys haven't seen him, check him out. He's the inspiration for all of my YouTube fireworks endeavors. He does. I could watch his fireworks videos for hours. They're so relaxing. It's just him there, no talking, blowing stuff up. Great time. I'm pretty sure he's in Germany. Maybe he has a license, but some of the commercial stuff, like even he buys like some consumer grade stuff sometimes, and it looks great. MG asks, how is Dasha doing? I was just thinking about Mehmet earlier, and I'm planning to get another interview lined up with Mehmet. We're going to talk to him, see how he's been doing, and we'll also get an update on how Dasha has been for you guys, okay? Lost B83 says, we need to get the Nemico Food Network going. Maybe someday we shall do that. Somebody was tossing around the idea of a crawfish boil or something like that. I've never done one. We'll see. Unstinkable says, Nemico Network, Poland is the place to be for fireworks, I believe. Maybe that's where he is from. Maybe that guy is from Poland and not Germany. I thought he was speaking German. I thought he was a German guy. Great YouTuber, the Offler. Look him up. He's probably my favorite fireworks YouTuber by far. Unstable says, yeah, I think the Offler gets his fireworks from Poland. Yeah, that would explain it. Yeah, maybe I'll have to go to Poland then. I had some Polish friends, so maybe they can give me a little insight there. Doompie says, Unstinkable, yes, Poland is the place for fireworks, and Italy makes some really heavy firecrackers. I'm going to have to go take a little fireworks vacation at some point, someday, over to Europe, to a few of those countries, and see which one has the best fireworks there. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, to everybody that stopped by to get updated on what's going on in Ukraine, to everybody that joined us in the live chats for this discussion, to all of you guys. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to be with us here and to get filled in. New reports every weekday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We might be moving to a new, more lax schedule. I might break it down to 3 days a week, especially as we start to get more video content out to you guys. I might be breaking the live streams down, at least for the reports, to 3 a week. especially as kind of the news has slowed. And don't be mistaken. The amount of events in Ukraine, I think, have increased. The amount of attacks that have occurred, the amount of fighting that has occurred has increased, but the amount of media reports coming out has severely decreased. I've seen a sharp drop-off on the amount of news coverage coming out of Ukraine, but at the same time, we've seen a sharp uptick in the amount of violence that is occurring in Ukraine. So again, we're going to be here till the end of the war with you guys, and still, as it stands now, the schedule is, again, every weekday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's 3 a.m. Ukraine time. You can join us here for an update on Ukraine. And again, we have some other video content coming down the pipeline for you guys as well. For those that missed it, the report will be uploaded to the YouTube channel shortly after we're done here live at youtube.com/Nemico Network. If you're looking for any of the sources or any of our links, you can find those in the description below. If you can't find them there, you can find it over on the Discord server. That's discord.gg/Nemico. You can find an invite link to that in the description below. Everybody's welcome to join. Make sure you read the rules before posting. If you want to contribute reports and news to our nightly reports, you can pick up your Intel Analyst rank in the Discord welcome channel, and you'll be able to access our situation room where you can post in there, and some of your reports might get chosen for these nightly live streams. Again, guys, if you haven't already, please hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. Right after this stream is over, we'll be getting the 24/7 cam stream back up, so don't go anywhere. The stream won't be going down. We'll just be changing the title and getting over to our cam screen there. Again, guys, thank you so much for stopping by tonight. Until next time, you've been watching Nemico Network.
Something that will change our daily lives.